We harvested the last of our Wapsie Valley and Hopi blue corn this week, and what better way to celebrate the corn harvest than with homegrown corn tortillas. Harvesting heirloom grain corn is one of my favorite gardening activities. I could honestly spend hours cracking those chunks of delicious sustenance off the stalks, and sometimes I do. Oh, this is going to be a pretty white and yellow one. Look at this. I love those colors.
Beans are definitely climbing.
Yeah. So we got those leaves off and let the light in. They love that.
You've always got to let the light
Look at these chunky boys. Yeah, sometimes the beans ensnare the corn. You gotta go easy on them. You don't want to rip the beans while you're harvesting the corn.
Beans are killing it.
Yeah, they look beautiful. Gotta be careful here. There we go. Oh yeah, it's beautiful. There's corn right there. It's too
Like
full.
you need another basket.
Yeah, this is a half bushel. Got about a bushel in there.
What do you think, Walter? Are you excited to eat some corn?
Oh yeah. He loves the corn almost as much as us.
Wag your tail if you're a corn dog.
Shucking this corn is also a joy because with these genetically diverse heirloom varieties, you really never know what you're gonna get because there's so much variability in color and kernel shape. So we like to make a little pile on our coffee table and then put on a movie or a TV show while we shuck them. We're gonna hang most of this corn to dry and store for winter and also give some to our friends and family that we grew out at the garden with. But we always get these little nubbins that don't really make sense to hang and dry, so we'd like to take the kernels off of them right away and cook up some tortillas. If you've only ever had those thin white tortillas that they sell at the grocery store, or those pre-formed crunchy yellow ones that come in the box and you don't like them, I feel like homemade tortillas would probably change your mind. It's like the difference between a store-bought tomato in winter and a homegrown heirloom tomato. Even if you don't have access to heirloom corn like this, you can use the masa harina that you can buy from the grocery store, and you just add water and roll it up into balls. Even just that is so much better than those little white paper ones. The first step in making tortillas is to nixtamalize the corn by cooking it in alkaline water. For the best nixtamal, you want to cook it in water that's around 11 to 12 on the pH scale. And there's a couple different ways to get the water to that pH, but our favorite is with wood ashes. And that's actually where this word comes from, because this is a process that was invented by Nahuatl farmers in Mesoamerica. And then the Nahuatl word for ashes is nishtili, and the word for cooked corn dough is tamale. So you combine those words and you get nixtamal, which means ash-cooked corn dough. You'll also hear people in the US pronounce it nixtamal or nixtamalization, and people in the Southeast US call it hominy, but just know all of those words refer to this process. Our beloved peach tree died this summer after years of giving us delicious summer treats, so we cut up the wood and we're gonna save the big chunks of wood for smoking fish and deer meat and peppers this fall. The smaller branches though aren't really good for smoking, but they're perfect for cooking down into a really fine ash because they'll burn completely through. And just a note of caution, if you're gonna try doing something like this yourself, don't put anything weird in the fire because you gotta remember this is gonna be going into your food. You know, you're bringing these ashes into your kitchen. So don't use any treated wood or plastic or anything like that. Everything that we used in this fire was just corn husks, corn cobs, and peach wood. I built up the fire really hot to make sure that I got a complete burn and it wasn't just a bunch of chunks of charcoal, but actually just ashes. And then after the fire died out, I let it smolder overnight. If you're in a really dry environment, this is not a safe thing to do, but in Pittsburgh, we don't really have any wildfire risk. I still made sure it was well contained and waited until it was cool enough to put my hand on before we went to bed. The next morning, I scooped out the ashes and put them through this fine mesh sifter so that all the chunks of charcoal stayed behind and only the fine ash came through. There's something I find so satisfying about sifting out ashes or sifting cornmeal or wheat flour, but I will say it's probably a good idea to wear a respirator or a mask if you're doing something like this because it's real dusty. Don't be like me.
Maybe wear a mask.
My breath.
Fine ashes.
To make the cooking liquid or lye solution, we add the ashes to water and then mix it up well to make sure the ashes are well incorporated and hydrated. Usually we just eyeball it and it turns out great, but this week we measured it just for you. Sylvan bought these pH test strips for soap making, so I figured I'd get a little technical and see exactly how much ash it takes to get the pH high enough to properly nixtamalize the corn. Like I said, the ideal pH for good nixtamalization is between 11 and 12, and as you can see, our tap water is neutral with a pH of about 7.
Pretty neutral.
Pretty much neutral. After we added 2 cups of wood ash, it went up to about 10. All right, so it's at about 10. We want it between 11 and 12, so. Then we added a 3rd cup of wood ash and got it between 11 and 12, which is right where we wanted it. Ashes are coloring that side, but if you look at this side, that's just all the indicator strip. I think.
I see some bits of purple.
No, it's 11.
Okay, yeah.
And that's exactly where we want to be.
Great.
Between 11 and 12, there's some purple in it. All right.
So pretty.
So that's what it took, three cups of ash. Now obviously this will vary a little bit based on your water's natural pH and the ashes that you're using. But for a general recipe, we used 1 cup of ashes for every 1 quart of water. And that got us right where we wanted to be. Oh, that smells so good already. So after it cooks in the alkaline solution a little bit, the corn hull also kind of acts like a pH test strip. You can see that what's white in the raw corn is kind of turning green or bluish in the nixtamalized corn. So especially if you don't want to buy pH test strips, which you absolutely don't have to, you know, that's a good way to tell if it's working. After bringing the corn to a boil in the ash solution and then letting it simmer for about an hour, the kernels should be soft enough to smash under a spoon. Once they're at that point, you can turn off the heat, cover the pot, and let it sit overnight for the nixtamalization process to finish taking place. Something I want to address as it relates to eating corn and nixtamalization is that I often see people online saying that if you don't nixtamalize corn, it'll give you pellagra, which is a horrible disease. And that's not exactly true. Pellagra is a vitamin B deficiency, and corn does contain vitamin B3, which is also called niacin. But before it's nixtamalized, the niacin is tied up in a form that's called niacin, which we can't really digest. The process of cooking corn in a high pH solution transforms that niacin into niacin, or vitamin B3, which we can digest. So really, this process just makes the corn more nutritionally complete. But you don't get pellagra from eating corn unless corn is the only thing that you're eating and you're not getting vitamin B from any other source. If you're eating a balanced diet that has things like dry beans, chickpeas, fish, meat, eggs, dairy, all of those things have a lot of vitamin B. And if you eat non-nixtamalized corn as a staple along with things that are rich in vitamin B, it's not going to give you pellagra. All that being said, nixtamalized corn has a delicious, unique, corny flavor, and the texture of nixtamal is much stickier and softer since the process gelatinizes some of the cornstarch. This makes it great for soft tortillas or pupusas or tamales. So we would probably nixtamalize it for a lot of those things, even if we weren't concerned about vitamin B. All right, that was a lot of information, I know. Let's make some tacos. Once the corn has soaked in the ash water overnight and swelled up, we drain the water and rinse the ashes off the kernels. Remember that this water has a really high pH, so it's a good idea to neutralize it with something that has a low pH like vinegar or lemon juice before pouring it into your garden. Also going to dilute it with a little bit more water. Pour in the vinegar. We usually grind the corn dough or masa in big batches because it's kind of a long process. Obviously, all of this is a long process. So it's better to do in one big batch once a week rather than doing it in small batches, every other day or something. And you can just keep this in your refrigerator. We usually cover ours with a damp cloth or some plastic, and then that keeps it from drying out. But even if it does dry out, you can just add a little bit of water and work that back into it before cooking. We're saving up for a big electric grain mill, and that'll be great for, doing big batches of masa for our friends and family. But for now, we got this little hand cranked one, and it works really well. And, it's fun if you've got some time, but it's not very fast. This is slow living right here. All right. Oh yeah. Now I know I'm gonna lose some people here, but this is deer tongue. And if you've ever had lengua at a Mexican restaurant, that's what it is. I mean, it's not deer tongue, it's usually cow tongue, but it's the same thing. And it's delicious, and otherwise it just goes to waste. So we like to eat it. Sign of a good tortilla is if it puffs up where you got some puffin'. Alright, so this is probably enough for the next day or two. And just put the rest of the masa in the fridge, then we can have plenty of fresh tortillas all week. We accidentally left the mic off for the beginning of this, so you missed some really big,
Riveting.
amazing wisdom about how if you don't like the taste of cilantro, that you shouldn't eat it. But you know, we'll make another video about that. It's a really complicated concept. All right. But we do like cilantro, so we eat lots of it. All right. Yeah, Sylvan has worked 3 10-hour days this week, and she just got done her longest day of the week, which was 12 hours, and the first thing I do is stick a camera in her face. So I apologize, but
It involves food.
I made tacos.
Makes up for it.
Yeah, that's the consolation.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yay.
Beautiful. These are the first
ones
of
this
the year. Yeah.
Cheers. Look at
that
that
are like
color.
from this year's corn. Obviously,
Well,
we've
yeah.
eaten tacos before in this calendar year.
Right.
So soft and corny.
There's still like, I don't know, 4 pounds of masa in the fridge.
Oh wow.
I feel like we should use the rest of it to make chips.
Get yourself that cob there. Nice.
When it's brown, okay, you pull the whole thing.